I want comfort. In that wailing ball, as you held your head, you also felt at your weakest, you're now strongest because of the community around you.
I think the I want for me would be hope. It's really, really hard for me to describe. But when I was going through that, I was experiencing like there was things that resonated with me, and from my background, I can't identify fully with everybody's experiences, but I know from my own experiences, growing up in Northern Ireland, there are certainly elements of struggle and pain and strife and trauma that we experience. But I also, but there was hope definitely from it, that we're in this group of amazing people from different backgrounds and different walks of life that seem to want the same things.
I want to know myself. Are there some things that I can do as a Black woman because of how entrenched and deeply, deeply, deeply located it is in my DNA as opposed to somebody else? And then it made me wonder, and I wanted to test it out on myself.
When other Indigenous people, and I think throughout the world, are trying to talk to others, and with the understanding, with the belief that there is a common ground, or at least an understanding or a desire for common ground, and there isn't. And what you get are people's back.
One thing that I can take away from it is how to bring elements of what we've seen today into my own teaching. But I said in the group that the problem that I experience is that our national curriculum in the United Kingdom, Northern Ireland, is very entrenched and written by Caucasian men decades and decades ago, and doesn't represent the multiculturalism that we are in the United Kingdom.
For our school, being that white ally, and for me, this is high on the agenda at our school. But sadly, we don't have, Black representation or people of colour on the staff team.
As a retired teacher, as a retired educator, I wonder if at all along the line I did not contribute that this topic that we are now discussing, and that at the present time, should the education system get involved in rewriting some of the truth, some of the lies in the textbooks.
Sarah, I think it was, who said identifying culture. She thought that the piece could be a brilliant starting point for conversation, show the piece and engage in self-discovery and, of course, in discussion about the issue. And Nikki suggested that she could use the piece, the production, and integrate it to invite conversation, not just on not just on racial justice and reparations, but in terms of gender, in terms of justice in general, because it invites a listening and a participation from both sides of the fences.
The part that stood out the most to me, and the part that I think we need to take into consideration, is where they somewhat portrayed each other's emotions. So where one person was speaking, the other one was acting how that person probably felt. And I thought that was important, because a lot of the times when it comes on to this particular topic, we don't put ourselves in the other person's shoes to truly understand where they're coming from, why they have the experience they have, and what is it about that experience that causes them to have to speak out, to have to say something. And even though persons who are Caucasian might never really understand, but putting yourself in that person's shoes gives you somewhat of a better understanding, and it teaches you the different ways to approach situations that might arise.
These two women engage this conversation equally in the piece. But you can't really, can you? Because they don't bring equal responsibility or equal standpoints to the conversation. The white character is much more implicated in why this is a problem than the non-white character. And so are we in some ways trivializing the issue, eliding the sort of the thornier points of the issue by pretending that this is a personal or an interpersonal conversation rather than a conversation that happens with two people who are positioned with enormous differences in social power in the system. I think when you talk about equality, the equality is not built into the situation because both don't suffer equally. And until both suffer equally, I don't think you're really having a meaningful conversation. Why are our white allies still trying to grapple with it? Why isn't the pain, and it's a provocative question, I understand it to be a provocative question, but why isn't the pain as immediate, as wrenching, as tearing, as searing as it is for the other?
I don't think there needs to be both parties bleeding on the floor for there to be action, for there to be positive change. I also want to ask, where does the issue of culpability end? Does it end with our white oppressors? Does it end with, does it extend to continental Africa? And does the oppressor also wear a black face? So, and if the oppressor does then wear a black face and they can enter the role of the black man, or the indigenous man can enter the role of the oppressor, is there the same kind of wiggle room for the white man or the white woman? But it's interesting that until universal adult suffrage, women weren't making a lot of these decisions. And so in portraying historical truths, where are the men?
The ultimate decision-making is really not in our hands. We can resist. And we have put up resistance, and I use we very loosely here, as Indigenous peoples forever. The image of the hapless Indigenous person who is innocent and ignorant and not understanding what's going on is also a lie. Indigenous peoples all over the world have clearly understood what colonialism is all about and have forever put up resistance. But ultimately, it's the younger brother that needs to grow up and become more mature, to understand that just because you have a nip doesn't mean you have to scratch it right away. And just because you can doesn't mean that you should.
One of the things that I also appreciated in the text was to hear the non-white character use the word of curse and privilege in the same sentence. It also shows in some way that the position of privilege and power may not necessarily be all that it appears to be, that it comes with its own demons.
This internalized oppression has transformed itself from not just poverty and lack of personal security and food sovereignty, but personal sovereignty, personal identity. As an Indigenous person, I see that my privilege becomes oppressive to others.
To be honest, not everybody on the Black side share that experience or share those ideas. There's people that are in the Caribbean that still say that I think we were better off to be a colony. Then there's some who say, you know, let's cut off being a colony. Why do we need to even get them? Some people say in the reparations argument that we should not want anything from them. And the others said, we need it from them to go forward. Is the aim really equality in this conversation? Is reparations the fix? Is it the answer? Is it a part of the answer? Will it be the answer? Or do you want it to be the answer? Because reparations bills is not only an apology, it's not only money, it's also a sense of a way forward, something to do, a sense of cooperating.
We, having been part of this, need to avoid the trap of what we call in some circles analysis paralysis, because we could sit down and analyze forever. What we do want out of this project, out of the piece, out of this interaction, out of this engagement is further engagement and action. Yes, this is not a resolution, but let us each commit to moving, to doing something that moves towards a resolution.